Hey guys, welcome back to another Paint with me. It's voiceover Rachel here. Today we're going to be doing a different style of abstract paint that actually involves a subject, not just paint on a canvas. As you can see, we're going to be doing a hand. So we're going to be using watercolors for this. We're going to start off by just taking our first color and adding it to different sections. The only real technique at this point is to add it into the certain sections. As you can see in the thumb area, I'm kind of following the vibe of the hand. I've got that crease in there. You don't want to just have like a square in the center of the hand or one finger, one solid color. You're going to want to make it just in that way, slightly realistic. Now we're going to be adding the second color, doing the same thing. We're going to be using 5 different colors. 2 of them are actually just different shades of yellow, so 4 colors really. And like I said, the only real technique is to be following the shape of the hand that you have sketched in there. See, I've got the darker blue in the crease and the darker yellow in the center of the hand. You're going to be following shadows a little bit. As you can see, the yellow, I don't have that on the fingers in the light spots, but I kind of have the blue in some of the shadow. So just so that you can still tell that it's a hand and you've got that shape, you're going to want to slightly follow the realistic guidelines. If we were to use skin colors in place of these colors, as far as the deepness, the value of them, it would almost look realistic because we're going to be following the shadows and the creases and all that, like I said. So now we've got our next color, purple. And we're just layering that on. You want to be a little careful that you don't mix it, but I'm not using too much water, so it's going to dry pretty fast. So the watercolors I'm using are actually from a cheap set that I bought for Aubrey. If you divided the cost out, they're probably like $1. So you don't have to use expensive supplies here. You can really make anything work. It's going to turn out just as good in the end. So I'm still following the shape of the hand here, starting to deepen up the color just a little bit. I always start out light in all the paintings that I do, just because you can always go darker. Well, it's very difficult to go backward. So with this painting, we're actually going to be fine lining at the very end, and not in a cartoon style, but more in a sketch style, where you'll have a couple lines going over one line, so it looks kind of like you sketched it out with a pencil. So we're going to be doing that at the very end. So if you're worried that your hand is kind of losing its shape, don't be too worried, because at the end that'll kind of bring it back together. Here is me eating a pizza and watching paint dry. Because you don't want to get the painting too wet or it'll start to bleed, as it has in the top of the palm there, so I just thought it'd be a good time to let that water dry. So you're just going to go back, keep deepening your colors, add it on where you think it looks good, make it look a little more realistic with some of the color you're adding. I'm adding some of the creases in there. At this point, I'd only planned on using these colors, but I thought it just needed something a little more, so I decided to add green. You can kind of see on the thumb there how if we were using skin tones, it would be kind of replicating light and shadow. But it's still abstract because clearly the colors are not realistic. So kind of just adding water and taking it away, letting it bleed so there's no hard edge on the circle on that palm there. That's what I like about watercolors. They blend together and you can really work with them. Whereas if you're using acrylic, it'd be really hard to get that faded out look that the 2 parts of the palm have. Like I said before, it's looking a little messy, but that's okay because I know I planned on fine lining it from the beginning. And when you fine line something, you can even kind of line it not exactly where you painted it. It's a certain style of watercolor I'm sure you've seen before, where it almost looks like the image is moving because the outline of the finger is not exactly where the finger is. It just gives it kind of a cool effect. So there's not too many tips or tricks to tell you with this. I've kind of told you these two things already, that you're just going to kind of want to make it look realistic, follow the shape of the hand, the light and the shadow. You know, I've said that, but that's really all there is to this painting, other than you just kind of have to use your own preference and your own eye on where you think the colors would look good. So you're just going to keep going at it until you're happy with it and you're ready to outline it. Now I know my last video, or maybe even 2 videos ago, I had said that I had a charcoal and a critiquing video coming up. Now those are still coming up, but I just really got in the mood to do some abstract paintings. That's why the last one and this one were not planned, but you know, with art, sometimes when you get the inspiration, you just gotta go with it. Abstract is so fun because there's no rules. There's really no rules with any art, but there's even less with abstract because it's really just what you want it to be. So I just stepped back and looked at the painting and decided where I thought some little changes needed to be. That middle finger needed to be thickened up a little bit, so I added the yellow there. Here you're going to see me hesitate for a couple minutes on where to start. This is my first time fine lining. So I just decided with this, instead of trying to do anything tricky with the movement and the outlining in different places, I thought I would just outline it exactly where I painted. And since it's a sketch style outline, your lines don't need to be perfect. You can draw a couple lines in one spot. As you can see with these hands, I'm just drawing a few in the creases, so it looks like I sketched it with a pencil. I double-sided that part of the arm there to make it more natural, like a sketch. You can see it really just brings the structure back to the hand, especially in those fingers. They're starting to lose their shapes. And the reason I decided to do this sketch style of fine line for my first time fine lining is because you don't have to be completely accurate. It's very intimidating using a Sharpie on your painting. So if you kind of sketch it a little bit wrong, you can go back and fix it, and I'll show you how I do that in just a second. So I'm just adding those creases, trying to make it look a little more realistic. Here's the one mistake I made, is that little extra line on the bottom of the thumb. I was not happy with that, but honestly for my first time fine lining with the Sharpie, I was pretty okay with just having one mistake that bothered me. I just realized it right then. So I'm going to step back and look at it. It's not done yet, but sometimes you get so close to your painting you don't really see. You get so obsessed in how it looks up close, you need to take a step back. So when I stepped back, I really didn't like the way that middle finger looked. It just looked kind of wonky. So I went back and thickened up part of it, and I'm going to do even more. And I'm working on all the other fingers too. Just adding little details here and there. Final touches. Thickening up that middle finger and adding a little bit extra because that pinky is supposed to be in front of that other finger. So I just darkened it up a bit. So here is the final thing. I was very happy with it. Go ahead and check out some of my other